What is it, do you think, about your game that has people just can't wait to see you on the professional level?
I think it's just the style of basketball that I play. To be honest, I don't get nervous for games because I just know this is fun.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to WNBA Hoops TV. I hope today is going great for you all. I have another thrilling and fascinating video for you today. You will undoubtedly want to see this one through to the very end if you are a true admirer of Caitlin. Clark, please let me know that you are a member of the Clark Update Army by leaving a CC 100% remark below before we begin. I adore seeing all of the incredible Clark supporters in the comments. Let's get right into today's video without wasting any more time. Shortly after yet another outstanding performance on the court, Caitlin Clark waited at the podium, ready for the usual post-game questions. She was shocked for the first time in a long time when an experienced reporter made a remark that completely derailed the plan. Why are people still debating what was said? Join us as we analyze a reporter's statement that surprised Caitlin Clark. Gainbridge Fieldhouse hosted a press conference after the game. In a pivotal victory, the Indiana Fever had just defeated the Las Vegas Aces 94-87. Caitlin Clark set the bar with what many commentators called her best all-around game as a pro. So far, her stats seemed like they were from a video game. He scored 28 points on 11 of 18 shots in 38 minutes of action, including 6 of 10 three-pointers. In addition, he had just 2 turnovers, 5 rebounds, and 12 assists. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the content. It may surprise you to learn that almost 90% of viewers have not yet subscribed. Even though it only takes a second and is free, it means the world to us. Have you already subscribed? Fantastic. I sincerely appreciate your help. Let's return to the video now. The win put Indiana in the postseason with a few weeks left in the regular season. The press room was humming with expectation as cameras snapped, reporters scrolled notes, and Clark answered questions with her usual calm assurance and strong energy. ESPN's Holly Rowe had just asked about Clark's growing relationship with teammate Aaliyah Boston, namely how well they worked together on the pick and roll, which helped the team score 18 points in the paint against Las Vegas. Our mutual trust is really growing, Clark said, grinning, because Aaliyah was patient with me as I adjusted to the time at this level. It felt like we were reading each other's minds tonight. She saw Stephen A. Smith sitting in the front row at that very time. He had been extremely quiet during the entire 15-minute news conference. Unusual for someone whose loud, passionate beliefs and massive personality dominate sports talk broadcasts. "Stephen, go ahead," Clark urged, pointing to the well-known commentator who had covered everything from Michael Jordan to LeBron James in his long career. What startling query did Stephen pose? "Let's investigate." That was the unexpected question. Smith cautiously stood up, putting away the big personality and dramatic gestures that had made him one of sports journalism's most well-known voices. His expression was more serious than usual, almost thoughtful as he began to speak. His calm, steady speech changed the mood of the room. It no longer felt like a standard post-game interview. Here, there was more going on. He told Caitlin, "I've been doing this job for over 30 years. I've had conversations with thousands of athletes from every major sport. I have seen both winning and losing teams. I've conducted interviews with athletes and legends that no one can remember. I've witnessed both rookies who astounded everyone and veterans who didn't live up to expectations. But I would like to ask you a question. Since I began paying close attention to you this season, I have been considering this." There was silence in the room. Reporters paused their typing mid-sentence. Camera operators leaned in. At the back of the room, even the Fever's media representatives, who were getting ready to end the session, froze. Smith continued, "I've built my entire career on being honest, even when that means being critical. I do that. It is a part of who I am. I don't hold back when I think an athlete isn't giving their best effort. I don't apologize for having high standards, but this season, I've been forced to think about how you've handled pressure, expectations, and the move from college to the professional ranks." He paused and gave himself an unperformance-like facial rub. It was quite sentimental. "To be honest, I owe you an apology for something I should have stated long ago." He said, "This is my question. How can you remain composed and professional when people like me treat you unfairly? I've been too critical, too quick to judge, and sometimes just plain wrong when it comes to your career path. I have to tell the truth to everyone in this room, including you. Many of us have been proven wrong by you, and you deserve far better than some of what has been said, especially what I have said." However, how did Clark respond to this? Let's take a closer look at it. Clark's unexpected reaction. For the first time in her professional career, possibly even since high school, Caitlin Clark was at a loss for words. Suddenly, the same player who had answered challenging questions about her game managed the tremendous pressure of becoming the most talked-about rookie in WNBA history, faced angry, boisterous crowds at Michigan State, and remained composed under the bright lights of the Final Four at Iowa, was silent. She sat there, briefly opening her mouth before closing it once more. Her hands, which had been confidently moving during the press conference, were now still on the platform. Finally, in a weak, shaky voice, she uttered, "Wow." The confidence that had carried her through so many difficult moments seemed to disappear for once. She added, "I'm at a loss for words, Stephen. To be honest, I'm at a loss for words right now." The room was silent. Everyone knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. This was a very impromptu meeting in a world where media appearances are usually carefully organized. Even two of her teammates, Melissa Smith and Kelsey Mitchell, who were heading to the team bus, stopped in the hallway and turned around. They had a feeling that something important was happening. I mean, Clark had to start afresh in an effort to discover her voice. Clearly, she was still experiencing something. Yes, it has been challenging at times, but you probably don't realize how much it means. You asked me that question, and you were ready to convey what you just said. The criticism and the constant comparisons to my college numbers. People questioned whether I could really make the move from the Big Ten to the WNBA, whether the fanfare was excessive, and whether I was really ready for all of this. She paused, took a big breath, and seemed to relax. But you know what? All of that criticism pushed me. Music, I worked harder at the gym. I consequently watched more movies. As a result, it made me prove to both myself and other people that I belong here, that I can be the kind of player and teammate this league deserves, and that the fans who believed in me were correct. Then she looked up again, speaking more steadily. Hearing you admit that maybe some of the first criticism wasn't fair is overwhelming, but in the best way. Then what does Smith reveal? Let's look into it. Smith's later letter. Stephen A. Smith nodded hesitantly and reached into his jacket pocket for what looked to be handwritten notes. Clearly, this was more than a last-minute comment. He said, "I have more to say. Additionally, I must speak up since I have made unjust and thoughtless comments on television in the past. I have to take responsibility for that." He started reading from his notes. His voice was solemn and sorrowful. 3 months ago, I said that you were overhyped on the first try. I said that in order to boost viewing, the media, especially ESPN, was making up the hype surrounding you in the WNBA. I stated that you had to prove yourself over the course of a whole season in order to gain the attention. I wanted to know if you were strong enough or fast enough to play basketball professionally. I even went so far as to suggest that academic achievement did not equate to professional success. That has some merit, but the way I put it negated all of your earlier achievements. Two of Clark's colleagues, Aaliyah Boston and Erica Wheeler, were now standing at the back of the room, clearly affected by what was taking place in front of the entire sports media. "But this is what I've discovered since then," Smith continued, his voice growing louder and more passionate. "You are now averaging 19 5 points and 4 assists per game throughout your rookie campaign. Diana Taurasi, on the other hand, averaged 17 points and 4 assists in her debut campaign. Subard provided 9 assists and scored 4 points. Based on your stats, you're having one of the best rookie seasons ever." Rather than appearing to be performing for the cameras, the way he met Caitlin Clark's gaze was personal. Statistics, however, don't give a full picture. You have probably increased awareness of women's basketball more than in decades. League attendance rises by 48% when your team travels. The number of individuals that watch Indiana Fever games on TV has increased threefold. Sales of your jerseys have surged by more than 200%. But it's not only about the money and the media. It's about you. How you lead, how you handle pressure, how you give credit to your colleagues, and how you've made everyone around you better. Smith's voice was now quite emotional. "I was wrong about you, Caitlin. I thought you weren't ready, but I was wrong. Saying that you weren't deserving of the attention was a mistake. I assessed you using outdated criteria since I was unable to see what was in front of me. You're not only a superb novice, "You're changing the game of women's basketball." Basketball flashed as photographers tried to record every second of Caitlin Clark's emotional reaction. Other reporters began typing and taping as soon as they understood they were witnessing a historic event. Reputable ESPN reporter Holly Rowe, who had covered numerous touching incidents throughout her career, was clearly moved. She wiped away her tears with a tissue and kept taking notes. Adrian Worowski, who is known for his cool reporting on big NBA news, pulled out his phone and began recording because he knew that this was a really important moment. Sue Bird, a special ESPN analyst at the event, stood up and started cheering. Her gesture encouraged others to do the same. The first team to join in was ESPN. Then more reporters arrived, including a few Indiana Fever staff members who had gathered to see this surprising development. Fever teammate Aaliyah Boston came over to the platform and gently touched Clark's shoulder, a quiet but powerful way to show support. The gesture seemed to help Clark stay balanced as she stood in front of multiple reporters and cameras, still trying to digest everything. She then made a statement. Her voice had stabilized. "I don't need an apology from you. Sports media should challenge us," she told Stephen A. Holding players accountable, and posing difficult questions are intended to be hard. "What matters most to me is your readiness to change your mind when new knowledge makes you think otherwise. For that, genuine strength and honesty are necessary." Reporters, some of whom had publicly chastised her during her challenging professional debut, were staring at her as she looked across the room. She continued, "And to be music honest, I benefited from her criticism. It pushed me. It made me work harder to prove to myself, rather than just to fans or reporters, that I belong here, that I can compete and achieve at this level, that I can handle the transition from college to the pros and maybe even master it." The subject of discussion shifted after that. Adrian Wojnarowski, who had been watching and shooting in silence, raised his hand and asked a thoughtful question. Referring back to Stephen A.'s statement that we should reconsider how we cover events, "How do you believe the media has changed its coverage of women's basketball since you entered the league?" He questioned Caitlin. "What do you think will happen next?" Clark thought about his answer for a bit. She Music said, "I think we've definitely gotten more attention. This is great not just for me, but also for the young girls who look up to us and the stunning ladies who have been building this league for years. But more attention also means more pressure, which is acceptable as long as the criticism is fair and based on facts." She turned to face Stephen A., who was still standing and focused intently. "I respect Stephen A.'s recent growth. He is willing to listen and learn. Covering women's sports in the same manner as men's is insufficient. This is something new and important, and it needs to be understood in its own context." Rebecca Lobo, another ESPN commentator and former WNBA player, contributed to the conversation about the unique opportunities and challenges that come with being a female professional. Basketball player in 2025, you talked about using criticism as inspiration. Could you provide more details on how you've managed the pressure of representing what many are calling the WNBA's new era, Caitlin? Clark smiled a little. Her confidence had fully returned. "That's the issue," she said. "I never wanted to be the public face of anything." The turning point. Even more shocking than his earlier apologies was what Stephen A. Smith did after that. He sat down once more, reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, frayed piece of paper that had clearly been folded many times. It looked like he had been dragging it around for a while. "I wanted to offer one more thing today, and it's the most crucial." In New York, he said to Caitlin, "My daughter plays basketball for the middle school. She has been monitoring your development since your junior year at Iowa. She once asked me to give you something if I ever got a chance to see you." He stood up, walked over to the platform, and handed the folded paper to Clark. "She wrote you a letter a few months ago when I was criticizing your professional debut. She insisted that I would give it to you if we ever had the chance to meet. I've been carrying it to games and waiting for the right time." Clark took the letter, clearly appreciative and curious. She carefully unfolded it, as if she knew it was more than a fan message. As she read silently, her countenance changed from one of curiosity to surprise to movement. Her eyes enlarged and then contracted as she concentrated on certain phrases. A warm smile came on her face, as if she were about to cry. "Would you mind if I read part of this out loud?" she asked Smith, and he nodded briefly. Music. With a mixture of joy and passion, she cleared her voice and began to read. She went on, "I think this is something everyone should hear. music. After the letter was read, the audience burst into even more laughter, and some reporters even applauded Mia's candid assessment of her father's basketball beliefs. Smith smiled and said she's definitely not wrong about that last part, which sparked more laughter and turned the event from a typical sports media event into one of genuine warmth, humor, and connection. What are your thoughts on the reporter's unexpected statement that left Caitlin Clark's speech? Please share in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe and like.